For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon de Ryhove. MSF South Africa Humanitarian Advisor Jens Pedersen joins me to discuss the current situation in Africa's newest state, South Sudan. Can you give us a brief overview of the current situation in South Sudan?
Well, the current situation in South Sudan is one where conflict, which started in Juba a month ago in the middle of December, has spread to the eastern and the northeastern parts, the Jonglei State, Upper Nile State and Unity State. The consequences of this has been, at the moment, almost 500,000 people displaced. We're seeing 30 to 40,000 people seeking refuge in the neighboring countries, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia. And more than 60,000 people countrywide have sought protection in the UNMISS, the UN peacekeeping mission in South Sudan's compounds in various locations, in Juba, in Bor, Malakal and Benchub, basically fearing for their own lives. So it's very volatile, it's a very rapid evolving context at the moment.
What triggered the current conflict in that country? And can the conflict be termed a civil war?
It was triggered by dynamics within the ruling party SPLM, and then it has escalated since then, and that's a process that's been going on for some time. Whether it's a civil war or not, from a humanitarian perspective and from what the patients are experiencing, perhaps is less important. The picture we see now and the suffering and the refuge that people are seeking is not dissimilar to the dynamics and the experiences from the second civil war in the 90s, for example. But whether calling it a civil war or not is for us, or for a humanitarian perspective, not relevant at the moment.
What has your experience been of the humanitarian situation in South Sudan?
Well, over time, it's been a challenging humanitarian experience, in the sense that because of the long-standing conflict, needs are not new in South Sudan in view of the current conflict. Needs have existed throughout decades because of years of conflict, underdevelopment. So the humanitarian situation already was very dire. People having poor access to healthcare, poor access to water and sanitation. And now when people are uprooted, at the moment medical facilities are also being targeted. MSF have had 2 facilities in the past 2 weeks looted and ransacked by military forces. It remains very much a challenge to provide humanitarian assistance.
What are the main challenges South Sudan faces, and how is the South Sudan government working to overcome these?
Well, the main challenges at the moment is to ensure access to humanitarian aid for more than 500,000 displaced people in South Sudan. The current conflict, the fighting, makes that a challenge. It's difficult for me to see or to elaborate in detail on what the government is doing. There are talks ongoing between the two parties to the conflict. The political processes aside, we see that the humanitarian needs continue to increase. There is a lack of response. People are still seeking protection out of fear for their lives in camps, in medical facilities and so forth.
Some analysts and diplomats fear that peace talks between the South Sudan government and rebels may be too late to stop a war. What is the future outlook for South Sudan?
Well, it's always difficult to predict in South Sudan and in Sudan in general, because things change so rapidly and the situation evolves and develops very quickly. I think talks have been going on for more than 2 weeks now, yet fighting continues on the ground. There are certain aspects that remain unresolved in between the two parties, and what the future holds for the country is difficult to say. I mean, 2.5 years after independence, we are yet again facing a conflict situation, a humanitarian crisis. So it's difficult to say what it'll hold for the country of South Sudan. Certainly for the people, we hope that they'll have the fighting will stop very soon, and they will be at least allowing for humanitarian assistance to access the populations.
What effect is the conflict having on South Sudan and Sudan's neighboring countries?
At the moment, we are seeing 30 to 40,000 refugees seeking protection outside of South Sudan in the neighboring countries. So Kenya, Ethiopia, mainly Uganda at the moment. Some have also sought protection in Sudan, so a reverse dynamic of the previous couple of years conflict dynamic. So the immediate impact is, of course, influx of refugees, as we're seeing, and the challenges that comes with in terms of making sure that refugees receive adequate water, sanitation, healthcare, food, and so forth.